Hello and welcome along to this mini episode of the UCAS International Podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be doing a little bit of the old myth busting. So we're going to debug some of those myths that you may have come across about life in the UK. I am joined by two wonderful guests. It's welcome along to Laura Conaway from SOAS and also Anisha Palmer from Aston University. Nice to have you both on. Welcome.
Thank you.
I think we're going to have some fun with this because there are lots of little myths that go on about the UK, and some of them are spot on, but some of them I think are worth us kicking the ass off. Let's say that. Let's start with, I don't know why I said that, but anyway, let's start with you know how we always say that we talk about the weather a lot in the UK? Well, I'm going to start with the weather. Is the weather in the UK as bad as everyone says it is, Laura?
I'm Scottish, so maybe a bad reference point for that. Hey, but what's the saying? There's no bad weather, just bad clothing. I think that's so true. Hey, just come prepared. I'd say it's changeable, but you have the joy of all four seasons, which depending on where the student that you're supporting is coming from, then, that could be a nice change, experience all the fun that comes along with all the different seasons. So definitely different, but I think, depending where you are, something that just adds to the experience all the more.
Okay. All right. Well, Laura put a huge spin on it there and was very diplomatic. Yeah. Anisha, do you want to give us the frank answer?
You can get 4 seasons in one day, and that's not a lie. Obviously, it depends where in the UK you choose to live, but it's definitely worth noting that the weather can change and being aware of it. And the great thing about being in the UK is that majority of, if not all of the clothing shops will appropriately clothe you for said different weather conditions, from snow to hail to severe rain and wind, whatever weather conditions exist.
Okay, so we will say on this podcast, just for reference, we do sell hats, scarves, and also shorts and vests as well. Okay, we sell for all weather.
And we're a small island, but it does change depending on where you study. So that's also worth saying. There's little pockets of sunshine.
Okay, I'm going to say we've all tipped around that, so I'm going to say the weather's rubbish here. But that's fine. That's fine. The weather's allowed to be rubbish here. We can't have everything.
The winter can get you down, but that's why university holidays are nicely timed. You can escape back home and have some rest.
It's good stuff from
over
you,
December.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's the weather one out of the way. We're basically saying we're none the wiser with the weather. Slightly on the other end of the spectrum, should we talk a little bit about the grading system? I can't believe I've gone from weather to the grading system. But anyway,
transition.
That's fine. We're fluid on this podcast.
Quite the pivot.
It's quite the pivot. The grading system here, I feel like there are a few myths about the grading system. Laura, do you want to maybe kick us off? What are the preconceptions about it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an area where there's often a lot of anxiety, both from students and the parents or the people that are supporting applicants wherever they might be. And often that's perceived as the UK can be overly strict as students enter university, and particularly compared to some countries around the world where students might be used to being the top achieving and really, really highly ranked in terms of percentage points across their studies. And I think the main encouragement with that is that your first year in the UK, or your first 2 years if you're studying in Scotland, it's just that those are exploratory. Those are designed to equip you with the academic skills and the experience to succeed as you move into your honours years that will count towards your degree classification. And I think there's a lot of support at universities to equip you to be successful. And it's just having grace and being patient with yourself as a student or as the person supporting your student to give them time to learn, adapt, and to learn the rhythm of a new university system.
Adapt feels like the key word there, Anisha.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that even like pre-application stage, when you're looking at universities, just being mindful that UK universities are really well resourced in like being aware of international qualifications. What we find at Aston in particular, we may have international applicants with a wide range of qualifications. What I would say, if you're a parent or a guardian who's concerned about, the university not accepting the WIAC or an AP, definitely get in touch with the regional teams.
Just explain what that is. WIAC, AP, you reference those.
So the WIAC is the Nigerian qualification, and it's graded slightly differently to, say, a traditional A-level, but we map it alongside A-levels. And also, for example, the AP is an American-based system. But again, a lot of countries will adopt an American-based system or an IB qualification. what you'll find with UK universities is they do have a lot of qualifications that we map internally, and we don't often list all of them on our websites because there's so many. So if you're unsure, get in touch with the international office, send them a summary or your transcripts before you apply. Just say to note that if you're a suitable candidate. Sometimes universities will get back to you, or they will redirect you to a third party to quantify and quality check your qualification. And it's really important that you do that preparation quite well in advance. International qualifications can be a bit of a minefield, and one grade at one university may be very different at other universities. So if you're unsure, connect with that institution that you're really interested in going to, and just kind of quantify what they're asking for and what that equates to in your local qualification. Sometimes it doesn't translate as easy as it should do, and you may be offered an alternative pathway, but be open-minded. And the great thing is UK universities are really, really well resourced, and they will have lots of knowledge around international qualifications.
I said we were going to be quick fire. I said we were going to be fluid. We're going to go from the grading system to making pals and friends and social life in the UK. Are we friendly, Laura?
Of course, you're asking a northerner, hey, but I think, gosh, and it's definitely something that we hear questions from students about. We, speak to students who are apprehensive about what that might look like as they adapt to a new country, to a new culture. And I guess my reassurance is that there's so many opportunities at universities to make friends right from the get-go. And universities craft their year with a Freshers Week at the start to really orientate their students, to give them opportunities to make those connections, to have freshers fairs. Lots of students meet their best friends in halls. You also hear some horror stories, mind you, but great way to make friends.
Don't
being
just
in
throw
halls
that in
will
there.
come on to. I'm still best friends with my first year roommate from when I studied.
Oh.
We shared
Give
a
him a shout
room.
out. What's their name?
Maggie. She's based
Big
in
up, Maggie.
Washington, D.C. She just got married.
Oh,
We were all there for the
congratulations,
wedding.
Maggie.
So that's how good it can go, hey, in terms of making pals and making friends. But just a reassurance that universities, everybody is in the same boat rather. And I think, even if you're a UK student, oftentimes you still have that experience of moving away from home. It's still a new environment. We have international and home students together. So really everybody is coming in with the same ambition, the same desire to find community, to find people who have similar interests, and to help them feel at home in their new spot.
And you're not going to be the only international student in your college or university, Anisha.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the great things about going to a UK university is the fact that you'll meet people from all walks of life. I always say to international applicants is that home students will benefit from your lived experience and vice versa. I think it's really important that you have a shared experience, and whether you're moving 5 miles down the road or 5,000 miles away, you have a common sense of ground where actually you're kind of navigating that new space. The comfort that you had up until the age of 18, where you had all your set friends, you went to the same playground, the same food places, wherever it was, that kind of changes as soon as you move away. And I think university is a really great way of making friends that lifetime friends, like especially Maggie, for example.
Yeah.
I have made a significant number of friends from university, and there are long lasting friendships, and sometimes you might find the love of your life as well. That's the great thing about university. So you never know what can come from that experience.
Yeah.
You know what they say? It's a match made in university halls.
Hey.
That's
Maybe,
classic.
hey.
You just never know. What about, we talk a little bit about finances. I feel like another myth you often hear is the UK is really expensive. And the reason people say that is because they think the UK and they think London, and they think London's really expensive.
Yeah.
The UK is a lot more than London, Laura.
Absolutely, as a London-based university. But let's say, hey, I think, again, it's something that is definitely worth taking the time to think about. Finances is a huge area, and practically speaking, there will be very tangible considerations for students, for parents, as they think about what's possible. And UCAS has lots of resources to help students and parents understand those costs, and tips to help manage and budget. And there's lots of ways to do that, but it is worth being mindful of some of the costs attached. That being said, universities love to support talented students to apply and to help facilitate their study in the UK. So I guess my encouragement would be that there are an increasing number of partial scholarships available to students across a range of universities, and there's also quite a lot of variation in terms of tuition fees across different subject areas and also across different universities in different parts of the UK. So it's really worth taking the time at those exploration stages to look at different university websites to see the different sums that might be available. And very often it's a small partial reduction, some cases automatic, some cases tied to your academic achievement, but that can be a way to just take some of the pressure off and help support from a financial perspective.
And sort of maybe tying into the finances as accommodation, Anisha, what are some of the myths that you often hear surrounding accommodation?
So when it comes to university accommodation, often the myth about staying in university halls in the UK, that they are not in great condition, you have a shared space, or actually they're really safe spaces. The great thing about studying at a UK university is that they're single-sex rooms. Generally, they've got a lot of security around campuses, and you're also generally going to be in a room, in a flat with no more than 10 people. And it's a great way to kind of build a community around you. I think, so for example, at Aston, we've got 3,000 rooms on campus, but that sense of community is all like within a minute's walk of each other. Sometimes you've got to factor in that actually when you pay for private accommodation. So your first year is going to be in halls of residence, which I strongly recommend. It's a real great way to base and kind of have that foundation at university. And then you start looking at navigating private accommodation. Always, always, always go through a trusted university site to find really great accommodation. There's lots and lots of different ways of like different types of accommodation you can have. You can go from students having penthouses to really nice houses where they share it with their friends. But
Is that what you had with Maggie?
Definitely not a penthouse. We were on the top floor. We were in the attic and the eaves, but I don't think
That's
you
as
could call
good.
it a penthouse.
That's good enough for me.
I mean, I had one student who lived in Birmingham City Centre in a really famous brutalist building called the Rotunda, and she hired out the entire space, which was a significant amount of money, and then chose to take a taxi to campus every day, which was a 4-minute walk. But, you know, we're not going to complain about that. Some people have that lived experience. But yeah, you know, I think one of the great things about university is that you're moving in with people that have got like-minded interests as you. So even though you might be at the end of first year, you might not be living with the same people again. You might find a group of other people that you might want to actually live with. I think common myths are that actually like your bills are not included or it's not very safe, but actually all of those things are generally factored in, and universities do a lot to make sure that these are safe places, and we take a lot of care, and like there's a lot of safeguarding around that sort of aspect, especially if you're just 18 and you've just moved over. And navigating finding accommodation when you're overseas, try and find a university student who's already living in that space and get some real feedback. So for example, the Vietnamese community, the students I work with, they have a community within themselves where they actually recommend accommodation back to Vietnamese students, which I think is phenomenal. And they do like real life tours around the rooms and stuff before families commit to that sort of thing. So I think those sort of networks are really, really important.
That's cool. I like that very much. Right, to round us off then, quick fire. What's the one myth that you want to bust, Laura, that we have not covered? What's that one thing that often in your job you come across and you think, no, this is not the case?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'll pass to Anisha and defer to her wisdom and come back to me.
Anisha, you got one? Come on.
I would say one of the things that comes to my mind is assuming that you need to take as many A-levels or equivalent subjects as possible to be the best outstanding student. If a university is asking for 3 A-levels or equivalent, don't do 5 A-levels. It's great that you can do that, but universities will give you an offer based on 3 qualifications or equivalent to that. I think that sort of myth that by doing 5 or 6 makes you super academic and that's going to make you stand out of the crowd, actually is best to focus on the subjects that they're actually asking you for. And, you know, sometimes some subject areas may have very specific requirements, and there are some that just have, like, there are no specifics at all, and that's quite a nice thing. And I think international students can bring so much more than just like an A-level qualification. They can bring so much cultural nuance with them. That's a significant benefit of being a student at university in the UK.
She bought you enough time there, Laura?
Maybe just about.
Go on.
I think not a myth, but something that we come up against is a lot of fear and anxiety about the visa process for the UK, and actually something that can hold a lot of students back or cause a lot of anxiety among parents. And I think just to, again, encourage that it is a relatively straightforward, linear process for the UK, and it's very clearly mapped on the UKVI website, and lots of guidance and support available from universities to support students inward on their journey to the UK. So just an encouragement that typically for most students is a very straightforward, smooth process, and not to get too anxious about it in advance. It is worth exploring, and again, lots of resources that students can find online to make sure they're prepared, lots of resources and wisdom within schools as well from counsellors who have supported students through that process, but no need to be anxious.
No need to be anxious. And also, that's a nice cross promo to our full episode of the UCAS International podcast that covers things like visas as well.
Do you see how well UCAS is equipping and resourcing students?
God, we are good, aren't we? Right, good stuff. Thank you very much. Oh, and also, my myth, you went for quite sort of serious good ones. I'm just going to say our food, I'm going to say the food over here is not as bad as everyone thinks it is because you've got loads of options. Don't you worry. We are good
It's
at having
more
options.
than just fish and chips,
We've got your French, we've got your Italian, we've got your Nepalese, your Persian, your American, whatever you want. It's all here. That's
You know, the strength of the UK is its diversity, and I think that touches on a lot of the topics that we've chatted through and the myths that we've touched on in this session.
It was chaotic, but I enjoyed it.
We got there.
We
That's
got
what I'm
there.
here for, all
It's
the
very
chaos.
good stuff. Thank you very much. Consider those myths busted. Excellent work. Well done, everybody. Lovely stuff. Don't forget, of course, if you are thinking of studying in a city, we do have city guides as well available via ucas.com. That'll cover things like uni buddies, the safety, how you can make the most of your time in a city. All available via ucas.com. And of course, loads of these other podcasts available in the UCAS International podcast feed, wherever you get your pods, or of course on YouTube if you hit that subscribe button. We'll speak soon.